Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll.
Remkessoon, absent. Tobin.
Here.
Kleiner.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
John Francois.
Here.
Burr.
Here.
Green.
Here.
Massey.
Here.
President Rodriguez.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Approval of minutes.
Tonight we have the minutes from the November 19th, 2019 meeting.
So moved. Resolution sponsored by Alderman Massey, second by Alderman Green. All in favor? Aye. Correspondence.
Nothing this evening.
For the good of the city, anyone would like to address the council, please step forward. You have 4 minutes.
I think we have some guests outside,
You want me to?
interviewed by the media. If we should notify them.
So right now, for under the good of the city, it's open. We have 4 minutes for the good of the city. You can come up.
Good afternoon. My name is Ray Harvey. I'm the president of the NAACP Newburgh Highland Fall chapter. Friday night we had an incident here that we have to come together and resolve this. This ain't the first time, and if we don't resolve this, it's not going to be the last. So as adults, we have to take care of our kids, and that's our responsibility as, you know, citizen of Middletown and Newburgh. So I thought the mayor would be here because I would like to set up there you go. I'd like to set up a meeting with you. I don't know, because I'm looking here. I would like to set up a meeting as the president of NAACP with you and your chief so that we can come up with some resolutions and try to nip this in the bud. You know what I mean? Because it's about our kids. Our kids have to be safe. That's the most important thing in life, is kids. You know, we can't. And I'm not blaming nobody. I'm just saying we got to work together as grown-ups to make sure this doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Juanita King. It was my daughter on the video that was being dragged out. So this is not the first time, like he said, that we've had a problem with Newburgh and Middletown with these games. Like him, I'm not saying anybody is at fault, but we need to come up with a resolution. The kids could have really got hurt that night, not just our kids, but your kids too. It's not the first time that this has happened. It happened at the football game. I know 2 years ago when my daughter was on the basketball team, I had to call the principal from Middletown High School the next day because we had carloads of kids that followed the Newburgh bus back to Newburgh, and they fought at NFA after the game. So it's an ongoing problem that's not just today. It's been years. And if we don't come up with a solution soon, somebody's child is going to lose their life. I mean, I felt it the other night when I seen my daughter in that video. It hurt. And I know you all have children. You would have hurt too if that was your child being dragged out. Like, I know my child. I did not raise her to be rowdy or anything. In the video, she has her hands in her pocket saying, you know, I have my hands in my pocket, I'm not fighting you. She was scared to death. She's not that child. And the way Facebook is beating her up is making her seem like she's a bad kid, and she's not. You don't have to cry, baby. she's really not. This child is a child that stays in the house. She doesn't do anything. She paints and stays in. And when she does attend something, it's a school function. She doesn't hang out, anything. Now she's scared to attend a school function. Like, we have to come up with some resolutions so that our kids feel comfortable attending something that should be a comforted environment. It should be secure. She shouldn't be scared to attend something. If she feels like this, imagine how many other kids feel like this. Like, I just beg you, please, come up with a solution for these games before somebody's child is not here anymore. I know I don't want to bury my child, and I know nobody else does either. Please, I beg you, please come up with a resolution for these games. If it comes down to no spectators, but there has to be a resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Amari Shakur, City Council of the City of Newburgh. So I know your job's here. So basically, while we're here tonight, I came to bring this parent here. We have a lot more parents that wanted to come, but we're going to have a meeting with them first before we come and find out what happened and how we can come up with a solution to make sure it don't happen. Because Middletown, Newburgh, Kipsy, Kingston, we always been having robberies at our games and stuff, but right now it's getting a little worse. So right now, and nobody has addressed the problem. The parents, you know, it just happens every year, and then it just goes on. But this year, it looked like it got a little worse. So right now, we're just coming to see what kind of solutions we can put together with Middletown and make sure that this doesn't happen again. Because there's a whole bunch of discrepancies we heard. We got videotapes. We've been talking to people. But right now, I just came here to bring them to make sure that this story was heard and make sure that we didn't come to talk about the problem. We come to talk about the solution. How can we go on and make sure when your children come to Newburgh, they're safe, and when our children come here, they're safe. That's the bottom line. How can we make sure that our children are safe? And that's why we're here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, reports of department heads, economic development.
Nothing this evening.
Question for Maria? Thank you, Maria. DPW Commissioner.
Good evening. We'll update you about a few projects that are going on and some personnel changes. We have code enforcement officer who has resigned. He's moving on to another job, and we are in the process of hiring a new code enforcement officer. Hopefully we can start the new code enforcement officer on Monday. The last day of the current code enforcement officer that is moving on is next Tuesday. So, you know, we'll be ready for the change in personnel. Before you tonight, there is an important resolution to support interconnection in the water distribution system between the town of Wallkill, city of Middletown, and the town of Goshen. The mayor has been working on this project for a couple of years now with myself and the town. And it's basically because we have old infrastructure and we have different kind of threats out there. We want to make sure that in the event of any natural, anything that is man-made or God-made crisis that happen in our water distribution system, that we can meet the demand for our residents on an emergency basis. And for that, we're going to be doing an interconnection between the town of Wallkill water distribution system and the city of Middletown. One is going to be on East Main Street, and one is going to be on Cottage Street. This project is very important. The state supports these projects very strongly because of redundancy and dependency of water distribution systems. And our share will be under $300,000 for both emergency vaults that will be constructed. There's a 25% grant from the state, and the rest of the project will be funded 50% city, 50% town of Wallkill. That is an extremely important project for us, and I'm requesting, the mayor and I were requesting your support. Another project will be awarding, and that project has been bid already. So this resolution will be supporting the town of Wallkill resolution to award the bid to TAM Enterprises to construct those two vaults. Another project before you is awarding the bid for a high-lift pump station at the water treatment plant, and that's also for TAM Enterprises. They are the low bidders. There are three contracts in there, the GC, which is TAM, Electric, Rotolo, and we have HVAC, which is Westar Mechanical of Middletown. The total project is about $1.5 million. All this cost will be funded by the water system, by the revenue we generate from the water system. There is no grant associated with this. This will replace a pump station that's been working at the water treatment plant for over 30 years now. And so really this one is much needed project for dependency of our water treatment and filtration system. Before you also another resolution, we're requesting to award a project to CDM Smith for digitizing all of our infrastructure, water, sewer, and stormwater. And right now, all we have, I brought with me a book in here, which what we consider our Bible. I just want to show it. People will know what we're working with right now. It's been our dream in here this is our dream. This is our water distribution system maps underground. So if there's any water main break or anything like that, we go into books like this. And every now and then when we have an improvement or upgrade, we go insert more pages in here. And all that, like any other old city, is really governed by institutional knowledge, meaning the people who've been here for a number of years, they remember and know everything about the system. So this about $350,000 project, we have $128,000 grant from the state to fund this project. It's basically digitizing all our underground utilities and putting them on the cloud, basically, in the cloud. And our foremen, our water department, our deputies, they'll be running around with iPads now with them instead of carrying books like that with pages flipping around. They will be able to go to the side, find the location of the water main break, take pictures right on the spot, upload the pictures to the cloud right on the spot, add some notes, the type of break, what happened, the size of the pipe, and all that. And the mayor had really a great idea, which is to encourage the newly started in here university, FITN, in there. They have a professor who's funded by NASA. He's really extremely knowledgeable with drone, aerial photographs, and all that stuff. So with the mayor's suggestion, there's going to be like a joint venture between that university, FITN, CDM Smith, and the city to work on this. And FITN will be flying drones all over the city, having digitize all our topography, generate a GIS system in there where we can not only add the water system, but also the storm sewer and the sanitary sewer. And that we will be complying then with the state mandate that was supposed to take place a few years from now for digitizing and mapping our storm water system, which we don't have any really good mapping of. We never had it. And now all the institutional knowledge that we have in our heads is going to be all conveyed on, is going to be digitized and available for the future generations to come, rather than just institutional knowledge being lost when a person moves on, go to another job or retires. So we request your support for that project. ADA sidewalk project, $3.6 million. It's been submitted to DOT today. And the mayor is going to be going over it to review it regarding some location for streetlights, ornamental streetlights. And before you, another resolution for the cleanup week, spring cleanup week. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions for Jacob? Thank you, Jacob.
Yes, sir.
Fire chief?
Good evening, everybody. We have a resolution tonight to transfer within our 2019 budget to cover the contract for the cameras that have been installed in the all three firehouses. Last year, we ran a little over 830 calls. We took in 26 volunteers, and with the unfortunate situation in Newburgh with the fire department, we were able to take in 2 probationary firemen from Newburgh. They're on their 3rd week here, and you're training every day. Truck 3 is here. I'm sure everybody's seen the pictures and magnitude of comments out there. And we're looking to put that into service the 2nd week of February. Training begins this week with 2 trainers from the factory. Will be here starting tomorrow through Saturday. We put into place the new software that we were able to purchase that works in line with the CAD system from the county. We were able to purchase the tablets for the chief cars, and we'll be doing the incident reports for the state right on the scene. So the CAD system that works with the county, that works in line with our CAD, goes right to the tablets, and then we can send it right to the state. So we're moving forward here. And the new county radio system is up and running in the firehouses.
Can you tell us what the CAD is? I'm sorry, I don't know what it is.
It's electronic. That's how we receive all our calls from the county, and it's a computer-based. When the call comes in, any notes that are put into the system go right to us
Like a
to
clearinghouse?
update us.
It's the map, and
what's
also
going-
gives you cross streets of where they're calling
Okay.
from.
It has a
CAD, I'm
GPS
thinking
on
drawing,
it.
like mechanical drawings.
Yeah, actually, a GPS on it, which we're, like, in the near future, hopefully we'll be looking to put something in the vehicles as well to help, although they train on the streets and, everything's by memory, but there are those brain farts, if you want to call them that, where you forget where a street is, especially when you're waking up at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, you're like, where's that street at?
Oh, you have Maple Drive, Maple Road, Maple.
Yeah,
Road.
there's many multiples, so out there, so I guess that's about it.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chief. City Treasurer,
Nothing tonight unless anybody has any questions.
any question for Don? Thank you, Don. Superintendent of Recreation out here. Police Chief.
Good evening. Before I get started this evening, I'd just like to thank Miss King, Mr. Shakur, Mr. Harvey for coming out tonight to express your concerns to us as a community. We have similar concerns. Mr. Harvey, you speak to the kids. I agree with you 100%. And what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to present the situation to our council. We do have some video, so I'm hoping that by the end of the evening, not only will it address some concerns and issues that have been brought up to all of us, but maybe to you as well. And hopefully we could have some resolution to it. So the incident that we speak of, or that is being spoken of this evening, was an incident that occurred this past Friday, January 17th, 2020, at the Middletown High School during a varsity basketball game. It was the Middletown varsity basketball team versus the Newburgh varsity basketball team. A lot of stuff occurred that evening, which I'm going to go through. Just bear with me, it will take some time. But I would like to start off by saying that I believe this situation was pushed forward through social media. Social media was the impetus behind it, getting it out there, and it kind of took on a life of its own without really a lot of the facts being presented. There's a lot of things that were missed in the social media posts. As soon as this was brought to my attention, myself and my admin staff got together to start looking into our responsibilities and what actually occurred on the evening of the 17th. In doing so, we put together a tremendous amount of video, documentation, follow-up interviews, and reports. Earlier this morning, myself, along with Mayor DeStefano, School Board President Bishop John Williams, Superintendent Del Moro, High School Principal Tracy Sorrentino, City of Newburgh Mayor Torrance Harvey, Newburgh School Superintendent Dr. Roberto Padilla, and Ms. Casey Solars from City of Newburgh School District as well. This is a very productive meeting. It gave us an opportunity to hear each other's views, concerns, issues, and address them. During that meeting, not only did we review video footage, slide by slide, frame by frame, we discussed how the incident occurred, what caused the incident to occur. We created a timeline, and we followed the timeline through the incident. We reviewed the facts that we are aware of today, and that is based on the investigation that was done. It was very successful. I believe it shed light on both sides, but at the end of it, the thing that I took away most is after we concluded that meeting, the message that was left with us by Dr. Padilla was, "I would like to commend your officers for their performance that evening." And you see as we go through it, the officers did show great restraint throughout this series of events, which are captured on video as well. So just to get into the incident itself, for that event, we staffed that event with 4 police officers. Starting about 5:30 to 5:45, the officers arrived on scene. There's an additional officer who is our neighborhood enhancement officer. He was tasked with patrolling the parking lot that evening, amongst his other duties. That was just an ancillary duty to his assignment. This is very consistent with the response we give to any type of school event, whether it's a football game, a basketball game, or whatever, whenever we are requested to the school. The varsity game started between 6:20 and 6:30 p.m. that evening. So some people have asked, we saw some of the social media comments, why do we assign police officers to school events? In today's day and age, we see day in and day out unfortunate, horrific incidents that occur at these school functions. The officers are there to assist with safety, security, and maintain order over the event when needed, if needed. The videos of this event also clearly show why the need for police is evident. The main issue that came about that evening that stemmed the situation in the vestibule of the school was a capacity issue. The school has a certain capacity, just as this room does, just as most public buildings do. There's limitations of the number of persons that can occupy a given space. It prevents overcrowding, and it ensures the safety and security of the building and the building occupants. So what happens when we violate those rules or we don't adhere to those rules? There's code violations, there's fire code violations, there's structural concerns, and it subjects the attendees to injury, overcrowding, stampedes during emergency exit routes are designated to accommodate capacity limits. And that evening, this was a real concern, actually. For those that don't know, just before the 4th quarter, after the 3rd quarter, unexpectedly, the fire alarm went off. It was not planned, it was a real event. So now we had to remove the almost 1,000 people, 1,200 people from inside the event out of the building, through this main corridor, through the vestibule, out into a parking lot until the situation could be addressed and the building could be cleared. So there's a real live situation that night that confirmed the reason why we cannot have overcrowding situations and why entrance points cannot be blocked. This is also a concern in all indoor school events, to include Newburgh school events, in which people have been denied access to their events as well, from what we were told, based on capacity issues. So this isn't just specific to the Middletown event. This wasn't anything intended against anybody else. This is a legitimate concern, and it is code and law. So as I said, at 7:45, or approximately 7:45, in between the 3rd and 4th quarter, the high school alarm was, or the fire alarm was activated in the high school. Unknown cause, treated as a real fire. The entire building was evacuated. Ended up being triggered by steam in the pool shower area. After the all clear was given by the fire department, people were allowed to back into the building, including the people that we originally denied entry to, or were denied entry. So it brings us to 2 separate incidents that occurred that evening, or what I have classified as 2 separate incidents. The first is an incident that occurred in the vestibule area where officers were requested to address a group of people that were denied entry, and the group refused to leave the premise. The second incident occurs after the game is over in the parking lot, or parking lots, in which numerous fights occur. And we have video of all this to show what the officers were actually dealing with. So speaking of the first incident, the vestibule incident. For those that have been there, the entry point to the high school gym is through a vestibule into a long hallway, down the corridor to the gymnasium. This incident is the one that's captured on video and is being shared throughout social media and mainstream media. This is the one that kind of got the attention of the ball rolling. At approximately 6:30 p.m., officers are advised that the event is at maximum capacity and are requested to respond to the vestibule area to assist with an unruly crowd that is refusing to leave. As I said, they were requested there. They weren't originally there. There's high school staff, security that has been dealing with the situation, trying to diffuse it by themselves for some amount of time. When they realized they were not getting anywhere, they requested the assistance of the police officers who were already on scene at different locations throughout the school. The school administration staff and security had made numerous attempts to have the group exit. So just, if you could bear with me with the vestibule area itself. There's a set of doors from the outside, goes into the vestibule, another set of doors goes from the vestibule into the school. There's a logistical situation there that became evident that evening. The outside doors from the outside into the vestibule are able to be locked. The inside doors from inside the vestibule into the main corridor of the school cannot be locked. So I know there's some question, some concern as to why people weren't allowed to stay within that to stay warm. Well, for one, we have a situation with capacity, exit, egress, entrance points, which, as I explained, we had a fire drill, and that became very evident that night. The other is when I show you the video, you will see that the unruliness of this group that is inside of the vestibule, they're pulling on the doors, banging on the window, yelling. So to leave them in there, someone would have had to stay on the other side of those doors to physically hold them shut to prevent entry into the facility. So the group of people in the vestibule area, and it ranged from 15 to, at one point, almost 50 people. Not all of them are being unruly and disorderly, but the people in there, most of them, or several of them, I should say, are demanding to be let in. They're using derogatory language towards police and school staff, banging on the glass, pulling on the doors. At approximately 6:50, so again, 6:30, police are requested to this area. 6:50, we have this on video as well, which I will show you in a moment. A Newburgh teacher and a Newburgh security officer dressed in security garb come down the hall to address the group that is inside the vestibule. They take a minute and a half to try to address them. We do not have the audio, but based on their body language, it appears like they are trying to get them to calm down, excuse me, and explain to them that there is a capacity issue, no one else is being allowed in. So after about 30 minutes of the officers trying to persuade the occupants to exit the vestibule area, they held the doors open, they gave verbal directives to exit, informed the group that the event is at capacity, no one else could enter. There ended up being about 40 to 50 people in that vestibule. Some of the people did end up leaving without incident, but the main group refused to leave and demanded to be let into the event. If you just bear with me, I'm going to bring you to that event real quick. The video starts at 6:45. We can have access to the other video. Unfortunately, what I have today starts at 6:45. I'm going to also just speed it up just for timeliness, and I will stop at certain points. What I would like you to actually here, I'll pause for a second and I'm going to zoom in here.
You put up there.
This is during one of the moments where I explained that the officers are trying to encourage the the people to leave the vestibule. They're actually holding the doors open, trying to encourage people to leave, explaining to them. And again, they've been warned and addressed and directed several times already. This goes on for a few moments. I'm going to actually take you to where it becomes a hands-on situation with the police. At this point, we estimate 40 to 50 people inside of the vestibule. Just prior to this, the officers did close the doors. The people inside the vestibule, realizing that there was additional people outside, continued to open the doors and allow more people into the vestibule, growing the crowd. One of the officers is standing at this door. What he did just prior to this moment is he reached out to his supervisor to explain to the supervisor, these are the circumstances, I have a situation, it's growing, and I'm going to need additional resources here before we do anything else. The supervisor and additional resource just arrived. They have a brief conversation, and you'll see immediately hereafter, under the direction of the supervisor, the doors are open, commands are given within, and directions are given to the group inside. A majority of this group is going to exit or be ushered out with very minimal efforts at all. As you can see the officer's demeanor, they're very calm, they're not being aggressive, they're not being agitative towards anybody, they're opening the doors, holding the doors, and encouraging people to leave. I'm going to actually just go back. I'm going to go back a few slides, and I'm going to actually zoom in to show you what's actually starting to take place inside now. Throughout this investigation and reviewing the video documents, interviewing people, and doing follow-up interviews, I've determined that there's three main persons of interest in this situation. There's three people that end up being non-compliant and are refusing all directives, and basically at no avail will they leave until the officers actually physically have to push them outside. I'm going to zoom in on this left door. The first person that you're going to see interacting with the officer is going to be a female with her hair up and a white sweatshirt. As you see, the officer's trying to encourage her to leave. She's trying to get around him. This goes on for a few moments. While the officer's dealing with the female with the hair up and that went off to the left of the screen, another officer, a female officer, is actually dealing with another female individual with a white sweatshirt. I'm going to just go back so we could see that as well. The second individual was originally encountered by one of our female officers, again trying to encourage her to leave the area, explaining that there's no one else allowed in, there's a capacity issue, and everybody has to leave. You can see that it takes two officers to escort this young lady outside. She's leaning back, resisting against the officers the entire time. The two females in the white sweatshirts are brought outside. I'm going to pause and just zoom out for a second. Even outside, once they're outside, as the officers go to close the doors, as you'll see here in a moment, they continue to try to pull on the doors and regain entry. As I said, there was 3 people that we identified, or I identified as being our main aggressors, aggravators in the situation. The third is still inside. The third is a male subject. He is seen in this video here. He's got a hooded sweatshirt on. The hood is up over his head, and then he's actually leaning against the glass. Now, as I remind you, the officers have already been here for a half hour, trying to encourage people to leave. They begin to usher people out. We've already seen that 2 people had to be physically ushered out. Now we have a third person that is refusing to leave as well. It ends up taking 3 officers to usher this person out, as he is resistant to their efforts. He's right here in the center. They start dealing with him. They pull him to the side. It goes back and forth, as you see, and it takes a few seconds to get him out. One thing I'd like to point out also, let me just pause here. Even as the door opens to remove this third person, the first female that is identified with her hair up, again reaches for the door to try to keep it open and get back in, as you see right there. So this just shows the consistent efforts that were made to not be removed from this venue. Shortly after this occurs, I'm going to take you to the second part of this incident. Again, this goes to show the intent of the people that are trying to get into this venue and the continued efforts that they're making to do such. I'm going to eventually zoom in on this right-hand side of the screen. There's a door over here. You see a subject walking towards the door. My cursor is going over him now, if you can see that. He's going to go to this door. He's going to knock on it. He does nothing wrong. He knocks on the door, and inadvertently, someone on the inside opens that door. As soon as that door opens, watch what happens. I'm going to zoom in here. As I said, I identified 3 main players. Let me zoom out and see if I get a clearer view there. I'm just going slide by slide here, so bear with me. I want to show you who's at the front of the line again. There's our female subject in the white sweatshirt with the hair up. So to support my reasoning of saying there's 3 main players here, as you see, she again ends up in the front of the line trying to gain entry into the building. The officers realizing that they just encountered this young lady on the inside of the vestibule. She's again pushing her way in, trying to get in. 2 officers approach her as the door opens. One gets on one side of her and holds onto her arm, the other's on the other side of her. One officer pulls, not realizing the other officer is pushing. They actually pull and push her back into the crowd. She's never slammed to the ground. She never falls to the ground. In doing so, one of my officers ends up falling back into the crowd, which I could zoom in and show you. As a part of the commotion, a separate young lady ends up falling to the ground. Again, not done by the police. The police had no encounter with that other young lady. It just ends up being a side effect of what's actually taking place, trying to maintain the safety and security of the building itself. So right in the center of the screen, here's the young lady in the white sweatshirt. As you see, she's not thrown to the ground. You're going to see her stand up here in a second. Right behind her is the officer, and he is falling back. In his account of the situation, he doesn't realize what just happened. He feels that someone's actually pulling him into the crowd. And in his mind, he believes someone's pulling him backwards into the crowd, and he's going down, is what he's thinking. There's our young lady in the white standing up. The officer, you can see there, in the hat in the center of the screen. Here's his head. You can see he's still leaning back. He ends up falling into somebody who he believes is pulling on him. It could be inadvertently. We're not 100% sure if he was actually pulled or not. But as he comes up and is like, oh my God, and you'll see him, he spins like this, and the person next to him actually gets pushed into the wall as well. There, his arm goes, and the subject goes into the wall. That subject, I will show you, he never falls down either. He's standing right there. The officer's intention was not to cause harm to them. He's protecting himself. You have to remember, he's of the belief he's falling into this crowd. He has a weapon to protect. He has himself to protect. The doors are resecured. The young lady on the ground is actually lifted to her feet by her friends and escorted away. We've actually identified her, have spoken with her mother. She's not injured. We drove to her place of residence. She has not sought medical treatment. She has no marks, indications on her. So we've done our due diligence with following up with her. Her story originally was a little bit different than it ended up being by the time the interview was done, from what she originally told mom to what actually came out at the end. I'm going to zoom back out and just kind of go through this real quick here. You see, she's ushered off to the side and then out of the view of the camera. What I would like to bring note to is after this all occurs, people were escorted and ushered out of the lobby. They've been directed. We've had the situation on the side door. The crowd still doesn't leave. They're still trying to get into the school. They're still banging on the doors, pulling on the doors, and causing a commotion. Just going to switch views real quick, and I want to show you prior to the involvement with the outside. So this is just inside the vestibule in the main hall area. It's staffed with security guards, administrators from the school. But this is the point that I want to bring your attention to. Bear with me, I just don't want to overshoot the video here. Oh, I did. So let me just go back here a second. The gentleman that's walking away is actually a staff member from Newburgh School District. This is at almost 6:51, or 21 minutes after the officer's been involved. This is now after the security has addressed them, the staff. Now this is a math teacher from the Newburgh School District, along with a security member from Newburgh School District. They come and try to address this crowd to tell them that it's time to go, there's nobody else allowed in, so on and so forth. And I'm going to play it just at regular speed. They spend about a little over a minute. You'll see them with their hands up. You'll see the security guard go off to the other side, and then they walk away after about just a little over a minute of trying to address this crowd. The reason I do point this out and I want to show it is to show that all of the efforts that went in to try to de-escalate the situation before it became a hands-on situation for the police department. I don't know what more the officers could have done to try to de-escalate this and encourage people to leave. As I had mentioned, we did identify the subject that claimed to be injured. The information through social media was indicating that she was injured by use of force by the hands of Middletown police. As I indicated, we did seek her out. She was interviewed, and that is not the case. She actually stated to us that she believed that she was pulled down by the police because that's what other people told her. This brings me to the second incident in the parking lot. Go back, halftime occurs, the fire drill occurs, all that. The game ends at approximately 8:30. At the time the game ends, there's an announcement made in the gymnasium that everybody needs to be out of the school within 10 minutes. By 8:35, I'm going to show you the view that we have outside. These cameras, there's 3 separate cameras. They're all capturing the view of the lower loop parking lot. They all have just a very different angle, but I'm going to just bring our attention to the one for timeliness of the meeting. As you can see, there's marked police cars all around this parking lot. This is going to be the first physical altercation that occurs after the event. And it's not one-on-one. It's not a single fist fight between 2 people. It's a little dark. It's hard to see a little bit. You can see several people fighting in the back here. The crowd is shifting. Off to the side, outside the view of the camera, there's actually additional fights taking place. As you'll see, or if we go that far, but I don't think it's necessary, that the officers actually escort a person across to that car that's in custody. These fights continue for about a half hour. About 20-25 minutes probably, and they move throughout various locations of the parking lot. And again, it's not one-on-one type fighting. This is group fighting. During the incident at the vestibule area, when the officers realized that this was getting larger than 4 officers should be handling, we requested additional resources. that being resources from the state police and town of Wallkill Police. At the time the game ended, we had approximately 20 officers on scene to try to manage this. The crowd outside ends up being 100+ people. We can watch the video and it goes round and round of the fights moving around. As a result of the fights, we end up taking 3 people into custody. I was asked if they were the main aggressors. They were just 3 people that we could actually catch and hold on to. I couldn't tell you who the main aggressors were. According to the officers' reports, they were doing everything they could to disperse these, stop them, and encourage people to leave once again. And it just kept moving, and they tried to grab and take into custody whoever they can without causing more issue. So they ended up taking 3 people into custody. The 3 people ended up being juveniles who were later released to their parents. I was also asked, like, why didn't we take more people into custody? In this situation, it's a volatile situation. The police department is definitely outnumbered. It's fast moving. Doing everything we can. We don't have the resources and something like that, nor do I know anybody that does, to be able to take everybody into custody. The crowds finally dispersed the parking lot about 9:03 p.m. So if we go back to when the officers first started getting involved with the actual unruliness and disorderly behavior, it's about 2.5 hours of constant interaction with individuals, not all the same, to my knowledge, and it's just based on what I've been told so far, the reports I've read, the video, is the people that were involved in the vestibule situation were not aware, I'm not aware of them being involved in any of the aftermath. They're not any of the people that we took into custody. So some other topics have come up. Use of force by police. Was this reasonable? Was it required? Was it excessive? When, like I said earlier, the officer spent just about 30 minutes once they got involved trying to de-escalate the situation in the vestibule before they decided to go hands-on. They exhausted their options. They requested supervisor to come to the scene so that they were making sure they were doing everything they could before they actually took any additional steps. The officers used minimal amounts of force to usher these people out. In the video, we watch slide by slide, frame by frame. You'll see the officers are at open arms at first, just trying to push people out, usher them out, encourage them to go out. It wasn't until these 3 individuals provided resistance. You see them, they're going around them, they're leaning back against the officers. There's no reason that at an event such as this, upon the direction of an officer, that an officer should ever have to go hands-on with anybody just to get them outside. I think it shows the intent of the people, that their intention was not to leave. And basically, everybody left upon those commands, basically willingly, except for those 3 individuals. In the video, we can watch it, like I said, second by second. You'll never see the officer use any type of force, whether striking anybody, kicking anybody, or slamming anybody onto the ground. The use of force with the female trying to enter the side door, this is the same female that had just been physically removed from the vestibule. The officers knew already they had to use some type of level of force to remove her from the first situation. She's again showing her intention to get in. Again, my take on it, the pushing and pulling is minimal, and it's to stop her from entering an unlawful space. She was not thrown to the ground, she was not struck, she was not kicked. The uses of force to stop and prevent the fighting in the parking lot. Officers needed to stop the violent behavior. They needed to protect the individuals from assault and injury, not just the people that were fighting, but the other people surrounding them. There was actually people that wanted nothing to do with the fighting that were trying to get to their cars. Through the video, you would actually see the sports teams exit and come through the parking lot while these occurrences are taking place. We're also tasked with maintaining order. We can't just allow fighting to occur in front of us in that type of environment, so we do have to take some type of action. And as you see in the video, the officers are clearly outnumbered. And there's total disregard for the officer presence. As we play the video, if you want to see more of the video, you'll see the officers are there. It doesn't discourage the fighting from occurring. The initial fight happens right alongside of a marked police car. You would think that in and of itself would be enough deterrent to say, oh my God, the police are right here. We shouldn't do this type of behavior. In reviewing our policy, the uses of force that have been displayed on the video, articulated and documented in writing and reports, They're all within the department policy and procedures. There's no violation of our use of force policy. Additionally, in Article 35 of the New York State Penal Law, we are justified in the force that was used. Physical force, which Article 35 indicates physical force is authorized by public servants when reasonable to exercise of official duties or reasonable and necessary as an emergency measure to avoid public or private injury. I believe we have both of those in this situation. We have no records or factual information indicating that anyone was injured by police during this event. There is a possibility, though, that some of the kids that were fighting in the parking lot did sustain injuries, but that's not by the police. That's from fighting with each other. If I could just talk about the video that was shared on social media. I don't believe there's a reason to play it in this forum unless it's requested. I believe almost everybody's seen it or heard of it or whatnot. But this is what I take away from that video. I think it's supportive of the behavior that was demonstrated that night. You hear vulgar and derogatory language from the youth, the young adults, towards adults, law enforcement, staff members, security, administrators from the school. They're saying, I'm not going anywhere, they can't move me, they cannot touch me, we can storm the doors. This language then clearly demonstrates that they were intentionally non-compliant and were not going to follow any directive. Their intent was to be disorderly. That's the end. They had an intent to be disorderly that evening. You hear the officers in the video directing everyone out. They have clear, concise commands for everybody to exit. You don't hear the officers using inappropriate or vulgar language or being verbally abusive. They're calm and collected in their directives. There's also some movement up through the social media indicating that the Middletown Police Department needed training in sensitivity and diversity. I'm a strong advocate of training, but this is by no means a training issue for the police department. The men and women of the Middletown Police Department are highly trained professionals. Middletown Police has a very extensive training program. We have an extensive rules and regulations system. We are a New York State accredited agency, and we utilize the most up-to-date, best police practices. I don't believe training on our end would change anything that happened that night. Again, it goes back, in my opinion, to the behavior of the children that night, or the young adults. So this is nothing more than a group of young adults who did not want to be told no and denied access to this event. They're unhappy that they could not get their way. They acted out. They had a disregard for rules, disregard for authority, and disregard for others. Just because someone doesn't like or agree with a rule or law doesn't allow them to do whatever they want. Rules and laws are enacted to maintain order and to ensure safety, not just of the individuals directly involved, but of the community as a whole. These young adults clearly demonstrated that they have no regard for authority or rules. Their actions jeopardize not just their own safety, but the safety of everyone at the event, to include the school staff and the police officers. They need to be held accountable for their intentional actions. I can tell you, the Middletown School District, when students are identified that are acting out at events, they're held accountable. And I think that's the way it should be. And I don't think it needs to end there either. I'm hoping that Newburgh does that with the school, but I hope that the parents of these young adults see their behavior and address that as well, because I believe that's where it starts. They go back to Mr. Harvey's comment, it is about the kids, but it's also about the parenting. So this brings us back to training. We need to refocus on the kids. They need to be taught respect, dealing with conflict, addressing the concerns in a more diplomatic way, and they have to know consequences. We could talk about logistics and changing the way we do business. We could add more door locks. We could change avenues of entrance and exit. It doesn't change behavior. If the intention is to have bad behavior, it doesn't matter what other mechanisms we put in place. At this time, I'd like to thank not just my staff, but the staff of the New York State Police, the Town of Wallkill Police, that responded to assist us with this event. I'd also like to recognize and thank the Middletown High School staff for their efforts in trying to address the situation. In regards to my staff, you handled yourselves extremely professional. You remained composed and tactful throughout the situation. I greatly appreciate all of your efforts. I'd also like to thank Mayor DeStefano, the Police Commission, the Common Council, the Middletown School District, and all of the members of the community that supported Middletown Police through this situation. I'd also like to recognize and thank Newburgh Mayor Harvey, Superintendent Padilla, and Ms. Scalars for taking time to meet with us to discuss and address this issue. Questions?
Any member of the council, any questions? Alderman Massey.
Chief, I don't have a question. I have a couple comments, though. I want to thank you for that presentation, and I want you to know that I, and I'm sure my fellow council members, stand firmly behind you and your department. You should be commended, not vilified. Social media is a danger, and I think you did everything that you could do. You did it right. Your men are trained to do that, and I am proud to say that you are our police chief, and your department handled yourselves in such a professional manner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman Massey.
Anyone else? Alderman Johnson.
Sure. I was going to comment later, but I guess now's the time. I take this situation extremely seriously. I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. I appreciate members of the Newburgh community coming to talk about that. And I have no doubt there will be good resolution. We have the president of the school board here. And whether it's pre-registering to come to an event, so we have a list of students, so we know it's going to be at capacity, so you 20 people didn't get to sign up. You didn't sign up for the prom, you can't come into the prom. You didn't sign up for the game, you came into the game. That sounds like a logical way to start. But I want to broaden this conversation, not to these people in our community, because that will be resolved, I'm sure of it. But the chief has alluded to use of force by law enforcement and outcomes. And yeah, I'm going to go back to one of the highest profile police incidents in this country, Eric Gardner. I'm a local veterinarian. I get to talk to people all day, which is a good job. A lot of them in New York City law enforcement. And in July of 2014, as the media reported it, Mr. Gardner was approached by New York City law enforcement. Apparently, their goal was to arrest him for seemingly a minor problem of not charging sales tax on cigarettes. According to the media, Mr. Gardner was informed that he was going to be arrested, and Mr. Gardner felt that he had already had a lot of negative interaction with law enforcement, and he indicated that he was not going to stand still and be arrested. We all know what transpired after that, and that was the penultimate negative outcome of police force. So in the fall of that year, I get to meet a lot of people. A lady came into the office with her pet. She's an African-American woman. She's New York City police. She had about 20 years on the force. And I am a firm believer in teachable moments, especially when it comes to me being the one that's going to learn something. So I did. I asked her, so in your perspective, what do you think of that incident? What do you think could or should have happened? And we could talk a long time about the positives and negatives of that interaction. Her answer was paradoxically simple. Doc, if people do what law enforcement tells them to do, most of the time, there will be a reasonably good outcome. A very simple answer, extremely simple. I took that to heart. I think when residents interact with law enforcement, not every person in every situation is prepared to say, you are the authority in this situation, I am not the authority in this situation. And maybe you've never interacted before and you have a gut reflex. Maybe you've interacted before and you have a preconceived notion of how it's going to go down. But the fact of the matter remains, regardless of race, color, gender, circumstance, when law enforcement comes onto the scene, they are the authority of that situation. And the resident, as far as I understand it, is obligated to say, you are the authority. I am not the authority. If you want to negotiate, adjudicate, sue, the time to have that conversation is tomorrow, not when the incident is occurring, but tomorrow when you say, you know what, I don't think I was treated fairly. I want to take action on that. If people do what they are told, and they are allowed to be told because they are not the authority, law enforcement is the authority, and usually the declaratives are pretty simple. Show me your hands. Turn around so I can see your face. Please clear the exit. Please stand back. As soon as that resident says, I'm not doing that, that's when the situation can escalate. And I get it. Most people do not want to abdicate their authority. But when you refuse to abdicate your authority in a situation like this, right now we have a video where we're understanding how these students interacted with the police and what happened to them, and we will resolve it. Eric Garner will not have the chance to resolve it. And I agree with the folks from Newburgh, you could have a very negative outcome, but the bottom line is, if you're with law enforcement, do as you're told, adjudicate it later. And most of the bad things, not all, but most of the bad things won't happen. And I firmly stand by and believe that observation. Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Anyone else? Alderman Tobin.
I think that there are some logistical things that maybe should be done. Students aren't adults. They make bad decisions. I mean, that's why we have detention. That's why we have in-school suspension. And I would like to see what the school district can do to prevent it. I mean, we can't have riots in the parking lot where people are attacking each other. And, the police officers are in that situation where we have to, maintain law and order, whether it's selling tickets or having an overflow room where they can watch it on a jumbo screen. But I think as a community and maybe more, we got to, and the Newburgh School District too, to prevent this from occurring as much as we can. I think we can't just have these fights in the parking lot and do the same thing next game. It has to be some kind of, our part as a school, more of the school district, figure out ways to prevent this from happening so that, so we don't have our kids, fighting in the parking lot or, having the officers there have to, ask them to leave. I don't think anybody wants to be in that situation. And so I'm just curious what the school district had to say as far as dealing with the crowds and we've had basketball games for years, right? But, something's not working, so.
May I comment to that?
Okay.
During the meeting today, that was discussed by Superintendent Del Moro and Superintendent Padilla. They are going to meet in the near future, I believe next week or the following week. They already have a scheduled date to discuss some alternatives going forward in the future.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderman John Francois.
In respect to what Alderman Johnson has said, it was an incident that happened within my own home growing up. And my brother and I, we got into a fight. And he had his own room, I have my room. But my brother came into my room, started with me. Then we started fighting. So my father walked into the room. What are you doing in his room? Speaking of my brother. Leave. I want you to leave right now, because if he wasn't in his room in the beginning, that should never happen. My brother chose not to leave. My dad told him the second time, I want you to leave right now. My brother wanted to be a bigger man. He wanted to stand up to my dad. I never see a person got knocked out so bad. The bottom line is, there's rules and regulations we all have to follow. If someone's there to leave, basically you're not welcome. Leave. All right? My biggest comment to our youth, young men and young women, you have to be very respectful to yourself and to others. If it comes into a situation where anybody asks you to leave, first thing to do is just leave. Simple as that. I understand. My son also, I used to go to the games, and my son used to play basketball. After the games, kids are running around for almost an hour and 2 hours. It's not a daycare. It's not the school responsibility to maintain orders. If the game's going to be over at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, whatever, call your ride, call somebody to pick you up half hour before. We have the custodians that's been in the school all day long. They have to clean the gym after everybody leaves. We have some of the teachers that's there all day long. They have to go home. I mean,
and the video speak for itself. No disrespect to anybody, the video speak for itself. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Alderman.
Anyone else? Alderman Kleiner?
Thank you. I was going to wait till remarks too, but since everyone's speaking now, Chief, I thank you for not prejudging anything, for saying you would do what you always do, which is you will look at the facts, you will review the situation, you will see exactly what happened, and then you will see if all policies and procedures were followed correctly. We know the social media account wasn't just the video, it came with a lot of comments on it. I'm not on Facebook, I don't see it, someone showed me part of it. But I also want to commend the people who came here from Newburgh, and everyone who spoke got up and talked about solutions. We're here to find solutions. We want to see what we can do to prevent this. They weren't accusing anybody of anything. They said, let's see, and believe me, fighting between Middletown and Newburgh or Middletown and Port Jervis, this has been going on for a long time, and what you need to do is what you and the mayor and Superintendent Del Moro and the Newburgh counterparts have done, which is to look at the overcrowding and overcapacity and the problems that arise from that, and particularly on bitterly cold nights. So I thank you folks from Newburgh for coming and talking only positively, only looking for solutions, and I'm sure this conversation will be continued and that you'll all hopefully find solutions to prevent it from happening, whether it's reserving seats or having capacity clearly marked or some place for people to keep warm if it is overcapacity. But whatever it is, everybody's looking to resolve it and to come up with a way that we can move forward and keep people from getting hurt. And yes, when you have a lawful order, obey it, and that is a primary consideration, and it goes a long way towards diffusing any situation. So, thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Alderman.
Anyone else? Thank you, Chief.
Is there anything else on my agenda this evening? All right.
Good.
Thank you.
City Clerk?
And nothing this evening.
Any question for John? Okay. Public hearings and grievances.
Okay, tonight we have one public hearing to amend the City Code, Chapter 475 zoning. I'll read the notice. Notice is hereby given that the City of Middletown will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, January 21st, 2020, on or near 8 p.m. as possible. Common Council Chamber, second floor, 16 James Street, to hear any and all persons wishing to be heard on a proposed amendment to the zoning code, Chapter 475, to require commercial usage on the first floor of two-family and multiple dwellings in C1, C2, and C3 commercial zoning districts. A full copy of the proposed amendment to the zoning code was available in the City Clerk, Room 12, City Hall, 16 James Street, Middletown, New York, and on the city website. Any and all persons wishing to be heard will be given the opportunity to speak either for or against the proposed addition to the code. And this is by order of the Common Council. It was published on January 9th and January 10th in the Times Herald Record and also on the city website. And also for the record, this did go to the County Department of Planning, and we did receive a response. This office has found no evidence that significant intermunicipal or countywide impacts will result from its approval.
At this time, the public hearing is open. Anyone from the public would like to talk about the City Code, Chapter 475, zoning? Anyone from the council? Alderman Kleiner.
Thank you. My understanding, the way I look at this is we're simply removing the planning board's ability to waive the first floor commercial requirement for residential. Is that essentially, I don't know who scheduled the public hearing, I don't know how we got here, but that's what it looks like to me. And I've been to, as you know, a lot of planning board and zoning board hearings, so I'm familiar with their consideration of these.
Yeah, we're removing it from the planning board and placing it where it belongs into the ZBA. In order for there are different hardship requirements under ZBA requirements. They have to prove a financial hardship. Where under the planning board, it was a judgment of the planning board. We've implemented, a downtown DMU zone and commercial zones with the sole purpose of preventing first floor conversions from commercial to residential. It's not good for the community, and the planning board, or at least there's some judgments on the appointed people who feel that people were making a financial hardship claim, but not following the requirements of the ZBA financial hardship. In other words, some people are going to the planning board and saying, I've had my place open for rent for 6 months, nobody wants to rent. Well, because maybe they were asking too much money. And that was becoming the practice. They were claiming a hardship, but they weren't meeting the criteria of a financial hardship. So we've now moved it from, or hoping that you'll move it from planning board to ZBA. For that purpose.
Okay, as long as it can go to the ZBA.
Yes, absolutely.
Because the way the code reads now is that city council can in their discretion.
Correct.
But the ZBA can also.
And the ZBA has firm criteria that an applicant for any type of variance must meet.
Right.
And it's basically, the ZBA is the first step in the legal process. It's
Okay.
the first step.
I am concerned for some of the people who have the two-family, and there were a couple incidences, the one on Cortland and the one on John Street, where we changed it to C2 zones to allow them to continue. So as long as they continue as they are, then.
Well, they would be a non-conforming use. So they would be that type of situation would be the continuation of a non-conforming use.
Right.
This is where you have storefront A, say Olivia's Empanadas. I'm just saying that because that's what came in my mind because I'm hungry.
They're very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
I've been here a long time today. But if they, for some reason, wanted to convert, they have 2 apartments above. If for some reason wanted to make their first floor an apartment, it's not an appropriate place for an apartment in our DMU zone and in some commercial zones. So they would then have to prove a financial hardship in order to qualify. Very hard to do, and the reason behind it is it protects, the ZBA is there to protect zoning. The planning board is there to give their opinions on how zoning should be implemented. But the ZBA has strict criteria.
Okay,
All right?
thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else on the council? I got a motion to close the public hearing. Second. Massey, second by Alderman Tobin. All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is now closed. Remarks of the mayor.
Yes. First, I want to commend the chief for a very detailed report. As he stated this morning, we met with a group from Newburgh and Middletown. He identified all the people, Superintendent Del Moro and Bishop Williams from Middletown, along with Tracy Sorrentino, Mayor Torrance Harvey from Newburgh, and also the Dr. Roberto Padilla from the School District in Newburgh, and Cassie Sklarz from the Newburgh School District. And the purpose of the meeting, as the chief, was to do exactly what the chief did here today. This is my second time going through it today. And we went through it earlier in much more detail because we had much more time. It was about a 2-hour meeting. And at the end of the meeting, Dr. Padilla did say to the chief, I commend your police officers for their accommodations, for their conduct. And I thought that was a very important message for him to send and to say, especially immediately. It wasn't like I'm going to go out and talk to the mayor, or I'm going to go out and talk to people and see what they think I should say. That was an immediate response at the end of the meeting. So and the people here understand the operation in the city of Middletown, but sometimes the people watching aren't familiar that we also have a civilian police commission in the city of Middletown. And these are matters that the chief will make a report to the police commission, and the police commission will probably look and see at the same information that you're seeing. During this meeting today, we also shared with Mayor Harvey and Dr. Padilla I gave him a copy of all the video that the school district had turned over to the city. And our plan is to make that available, and as you saw it tonight, some of it, because we want to be as transparent as possible. This thing did get legs, and I think there were almost 50,000 views. Not only local television, News 12, I believe Channel 7 was up here, and I think we all learned a lesson by taking a couple-hour incident and condensing it down into 45 seconds, that the messages could be skewed whatever way you want. The chief responded quickly to gathering and his staff to putting together this information. And we met yesterday again, and we discussed it over the weekend, and there is really no need for the commission to look into the matter, because as Alderman John Francois said, is the video speaks for itself. And I think I said that in the newspaper also yesterday, that it says 1,000 words, the video, and the audio is even more compelling, the audio that goes with the social media. So part of our discussion today was, in the incident in the foyer was not based upon the athletic event. That was based on people who were not able to get into the athletic event. Superintendent Del Moro was at the game. The game was very competitive between two great schools, and the fans were, highly engaged in the game. Newburgh won the game, but there was sportsmanship by both schools and by the players on both teams. So there was the people that were unable to get in the game were the ones, as you see, that caused the problem at the beginning. At the end was a different story in the parking lot. Some of the discussions today were, moving it to an alternate site. I don't think anybody wants to assume that responsibility. I know when I was in high school, there were fights between Middletown and Newburgh, as Jerry said, and I think for a time, maybe one game or so, they did play a game at 4 o'clock. They did things like that over history, but you see now is a little bit different throughout the country. I forwarded to the chief over the weekend an email about a school in California that was having chronic problems at basketball games, in which they do a pregame sale and have students identify who will be attending, and have your parents attending, and have them on, quote, like a guest list. And those are measures that may be the resolution to the overcrowding issue, but there's certainly not a resolution to the behavioral issue. And I think everyone touched on it. I don't want to gang up on it, but there needs to be consequences to the students that were acting both in the foyer and in the fights. Any students that were identified fighting should be addressed by both schools. I believe they will. I know the chief gave the name of one of the students that was detained, hopefully Newburgh schools, and I think they will follow up with that. But a lot of this is messaging, and I attended the football game. I think the council president was there back, the Middletown-Newburgh game back in October, November, whenever, I think it was October, and we had similar situations. And so we've had situations between schools, not Middletown and not Newburgh. Police are at almost every school activity now for a variety of reasons in almost every community. So it's not just here or just Newburgh. These are situations on behavioral issues with students elevating what used to be maybe a fight when Jerry and Massey maybe in high school together. Maybe you had like a little tussle, I don't know, carried on for all these years. But the fist fight has now become much more serious. And it's not something that can be ignored by the districts or by the community. The chief touched on the issue of why do we have so many police there? Why? Because of the history of, and as I said to the school district and to the Mayor Harvey today, is it would have been irresponsible for the school district not to request additional police at that event, and I commend them for doing that. And the police were not playing the role of security guard. You saw that the police were only called when the people were refusing to move along. So I'm very confident that the police department did everything correctly. I think the chief has been very quick to respond, transparent, and his men and women of the department should be commended for their restraint. Some of us may not have had that same restraint, that are not trained in that area, and that's where training comes in. And training, not only the accreditation training, but also training that they go throughout the year when you attend those barbecues, the pop-up barbecues, when you attend the Cookies with Cops, or the different events that the police department has built a relationship with the Middletown community and has built up trust not only with the students in many cases, but also with their parents. So are we reaching everyone? No. But I think we're reaching a good number of people. I think it's a good example that they are setting. And believe me, if I thought we did something wrong, I would be the first one in the chief's office saying, you know, what the hell went on here, chief? It's not what happened. They did, if you can say that somebody did everything right, from incident through review, I think that's exactly what happened here. So as a parent and grandparent, I can understand the frustration of some of the parents, but they need to watch that video. They need to watch it closely. They need to listen to the video on social media. The school districts have to do the right thing, and that is the only way you're going to tone these types of situations down. So in the end, there's two victims, the Middletown School District and the City of Newburgh School District, because the negative thoughts about those districts, the urban districts, are now expanded upon. Now they're on social media, and all the talk that goes with when something bad happens in Newburgh or when something bad happens in Middletown, it just takes off on social media. So we're going to expect a few weeks of this. And so the victims are here. People in our chambers here, our residents, their residents, our schools, their schools. And hopefully something will be resolved, and it will be resolved without pointing the finger that someone here did something wrong, but looking at the people who actually were doing something wrong, understanding that they are young folks, but those young folks need to have consequences to their actions, and maybe they won't be repeated. And that's all I have this evening, unless you have any questions.
Any questions for the mayor?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, Martha Alderman. Anybody? Alderman Massey? Tobin? Green? Johnson?
Of course. I went to Oak and Reed twice this week, once for dinner on Thursday and once for brunch on Sunday, and you should all go there. Joe and Laura are doing a great job. They had a really good turnout. They did a great job with the decor with the restaurant, and hopefully all of us in the community will give them a chance to serve them a meal and stop by the grill and tell Joe he's doing a great job. So I appreciated that. I wanted to talk briefly about turkey vultures, which probably hasn't really been discussed at a Common Council meeting before, but also in the Third Ward, Best Ward. On Maryland Avenue, about 2 months ago, I had a resident who's also a client call me on a Saturday to ask what I was going to do about her turkey vultures. So it was Saturday at 10 o'clock. I respectfully suggested I probably had no means ever to my disposal to solve the turkey vulture problem. And I kind of put it aside. And a couple of weeks later, she called me on a Thursday, which is when I get to be out and about, and I was on a call in Slate Hill, and she called, and she leaves a message by the answering service that says, well, Dr. Johnson better come and do something about the turkey vultures. So I showed up, and there were 45 turkey vultures on the roof across the street from her home. So you could say, well, what's the big deal? But anybody I showed that picture of 45 turkey vultures on somebody's roof, especially if you have a cute little dog you want to put outside to go to the bathroom, it's not funny at all. It really isn't. And I did approach Chief on another matter, and I kind of threw that out there, and he's embraced the situation. I don't know, who do you call for turkey vultures? I'm not sure. The DEC, Animal Control, they're federally protected, so don't even go there. Miguel, I saw you going right there. You can't go there. Mike, Mary's husband, who deals with matters like the crows we had in downtown, was called to the scene. There's something called a green laser. You can Google it. And it can frighten away certain birds. So they're on the case. Mike counted 70 turkey vultures one night. Unfortunately, when they did the laser, they went from point A, about 100 feet down the street, to point B, which was not really the goal. So we are making progress. It's a much more difficult problem to address than one might think, and, but the chief is on it, and I appreciate that. With respect to the topic earlier, like the mayor, I stand 100% behind, based upon the facts of the case as presented, I stand 100% behind Middletown PD, and I hope you will extend our thanks and gratitude and respect to all the members of the police force. Thank you for a job well done. Thank you.
Alderman Kleiner?
Thank you. I'll talk quickly. Yesterday was a Martin Luther King holiday, and Sunday I want to thank the people who, Howard Bizdansky and James Rollins, who put on the Martin Luther King celebration at the Liberty Street YMCA. It was a packed room, and it's still a very important message talking about the evils of racism, militarism, materialism, poverty. I mean, every issue he spoke about, it's still with us, and it was a great event. We've had students, and we had at our constituents meetings, students at the Board of Ed meetings, students at our at our council meetings from the high school, and that's a great program. It's always encouraging. It's something I think Syracuse does, works with high school. Whoever the professor is working with public affairs, and so they've asked very good questions, and it's nice to see students learning about government and coming and seeing how it works. In that vein, right now, our most transparent president in history is going through refusing to allow any facts, any documents, any witnesses, any information, burying his records, burying his taxes, the most transparent president. That's something that we deal with every day. And finally, February 18th, the mayor didn't mention it, but I will mention it. February 18th, I believe, will be the State of the City address. It'll be our second meeting in February. We look forward to that. And to the mayor, my condolences on Green Bay's demise. Thank you.
Alderman Jefferson.
Nothing this evening.
Alderman Burr?
I'd like to thank the chief and the staff for this, really getting involved in the situation. Chief, you gave us a great presentation, hearing from kids that come in, and everything else. It was great that you came in, explained everything. I think that will help the community a lot. And on the Parks and Rec note, we'd like to thank Sean Reiser for many years of services and his dedication and his great talents that he did for the city for many of years. Thank you.
Thank you. New business.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Massey to approve the contract with Middletown Humane Society, authorize the mayor to sign the one-year contract with the same terms as last year.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Massey, seconded by Alderman Kleiner. Any discussion? Roll.
One thing, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just my annual disclaimer of transparency. I work with the Humane Society, some pro bono, some discounted. I don't receive any income from the city. Thank you.
Anyone else? Roll.
Tobin? Aye. Kleiner?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
John Francois?
Aye.
Burr?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Resolution sponsored by Alderman Tobin to declare the assessor's vehicle surplus and authorize the Commissioner of Public Works to dispose the vehicle in the most advantageous way to the city.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Tobin, seconded by Alderman Massey. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin? Aye. Kleiner?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
John Francois?
Aye.
Burr?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Resolution sponsored by Alderman Green to authorize the mayor to sign a contract with Pitney Bowes to renew a 5-year lease agreement for the postage machine and envelope stuffing machine.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Green, seconded by Alderman Burr. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin? Aye. Kleiner?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
John Francois?
Aye.
Burr?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Resolution sponsored Alderman Johnson to authorize the treasurer to transfer a total of $11,605 within the DPW 2019 budget to complete unexpected repairs to equipment for the sanitation department.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Johnson, seconded by Alderman Tobin. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
John Francois?
Aye.
Burr?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Resolution sponsored by Alderman John Francois to amend the city code of the city of Middletown, Chapter 460 Vehicle and Traffic, Section 46011, through streets, stop streets, and yield intersections.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman John Francois, second by Alderman Green. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
John Francois?
Aye.
Burr?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez. Resolution passes. Resolution sponsored by Alderman Kleiner to amend the standard workdays for elected and appointed officials, which the clerk will report days worked to the New York State and local employees retirement system based on the record of activities maintained.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Kleiner, seconded by Alderman Tobin. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
John Francois?
Aye.
Burr?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Resolution sponsored by Alderman Burr to award TAM Enterprises the contract in the amount of $298,218 for a water distribution system emergency interconnection in the city and fund the project from the water fund balance temporarily.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Byrd, seconded by Alderman John Francois. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
John Francois?
Aye.
Burr?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez. Resolution passes. Resolution sponsored by Alderman Massey to award the bids to replace the existing water treatment plant high-lift finish water pump station.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Massey, seconded by Alderman Green. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
John Francois?
Aye.
Burr?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez. Resolution passes. Resolution sponsored by Alderman Tobin to schedule the spring annual cleanup week for 2020.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Tobin, seconded by Alderman John Francois. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
John Francois?
Aye.
Burr?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Resolution sponsored by Alderman Green to authorize the treasurer to transfer $7,500 within the fire department 2019 budget to cover the contract for cameras in the firehouses.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Green, seconded by Alderman Massey. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
John Francois?
Aye.
Burr?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Resolution sponsored by Alderman Johnson to authorize the treasurer to transfer $86,500 within the 2020 budget to reflect changes in the police contract.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Johnson, seconded by Alderman Tobin. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
John Francois?
Aye.
Burr?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez. Resolution passes. Resolution sponsored by Alderman Kleiner to declare surplus 2 old iPads to dispose of them in the best interest of the city.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Kleiner, seconded by Alderman Green. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
John Francois?
Aye.
Burr?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Resolution sponsored by Alderman John Francois to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with the Orange County Office of Aging approving Amendment Number 4 to the Title 3B agreement.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman John Francois, seconded by Alderman Burr. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
John Francois?
Aye.
Burr?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Resolution sponsored by Alderman Burr to approve the citywide utility GIS development project, develop a comprehensive mapping of the city's stormwater system.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Burr, seconded by Alderman Kleiner. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
John Francois?
Aye.
Burr?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
Resolution passes. That is all for new business.
Alderman Kleiner.
I'm remiss, I forgot to mention that because Sue DePew is not here tonight, we're looking at April 18th as Citywide Pride Cleanup Day, so don't schedule anything else for April 18th. Thank you.
Always got in trouble.
Audit.
Mr. President, I move the accounts be audited, the claims be adjusted, and the city treasurer be authorized to issue warrants for their payment.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Massey, seconded by Alderman Green. Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
John Francois?
Aye.
Burr?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez?
Aye.
Resolution passes.
For adjournment?
So moved.